How hard is it traveling in Japan if you don't speak Japanese? That's the question I got asked the most when I said I was going to do this Q&A video, and I'm going to answer as many things as possible in this video about my experience of traveling in Japan for the first time back in 2018. So back then, my best mate James and I did like a 1-month loop around the country visiting many of the classic sites. And in terms of language barrier, I don't remember it being that hard at all really. English wasn't spoken fluently by many people that we met, but certainly in terms of the touristy areas and the main cities and the people you speak to who worked at the hostels and hotels, their English was great and they could help you out a lot. Then when you're out in your day-to-day sort of exploring, there was enough signs in English to make it okay, and there was enough people who could speak a few words to help you out with what you wanted to do.
What does it mean?
Omotenashi. Welcome to Japan!
Welcome to Japan!
Japanese people are the most lovely, polite people on the planet, and they don't expect you to know Japanese, so they're always willing to help out. And like anywhere you go in the world, if you can learn a few phrases, like I'll get one of those phrasebook apps, and even if it's just 1 or 2 tiny little things, it shows that you're making an effort and not taking their hospitality for granted. But the one that always went down really well was Hajime Meshite, which means nice to meet you, and anytime we said that, they were like, oh, it just blew their minds. And in terms of transport, like the main trains, like the bullet trains going around the country, the signs were in Japanese and English, as far as I remember. The announcements were also in English. The only trouble we'd occasionally have was like getting on the metro. Sometimes all the signs would just be in Japanese. But for things like that, you just want to be more prepared. Like get a map of the metro saved on your phone that's in English. Google is your friend as well for getting yourself around, and Google Translate is a really good friend. So make sure you've downloaded Google Translate in Japanese. You can hold that up to signs and menus and get it to automatically translate what you're looking at. And we also use that quite a few times just to communicate with people.
My nose is enviable.
So get Google Translate, especially once you get into the more rural areas or more off the beaten track. They're not going to be speaking English, but if you've got Google Translate on you, it can help you out. Learn some basic phrases just to show you're being polite, and you'll be fine. It wasn't like when we traveled in China at the start of our Hong Kong to New York trip, that was a real struggle with the language barrier, but Japan was fine.
Easy. So easy.
And speaking of talking to locals, had this question, which is what is the best way to interact with locals? Our main experience of doing that was going to the izakayas, the small bars. That's where we just sat down. It's a bar, can only fit 10 people, and we just start chatting to everyone. And I had this other question, like striking up conversations with locals. Was it usually you guys or the locals that said the first hello? Often it was the locals who just came up to us. They just wanted to say hi and, you know, practice their English and just ask what we were doing there, not in an aggressive way, in like a happy to see us kind of way. So it all flowed very naturally. And in terms of filmmaking, everyone there loved the camera, which is why we managed to get lots of those interactions on film. Like I've had comments on other videos in the past going, oh, why didn't you show more of the locals? You showed so much of them in Japan, but you didn't show it in this country or that country. And it's like, well, everyone there loved the camera, they're all up for it, they're all like, hi, and all that kind of stuff. Whilst other countries, people don't want to be filmed, they're just going about their lives. Like, can you imagine in England going into a pub and just trying to film some random people there? They'll fucking knock you out. And I guess that brings us on to the next question. Is Japan as safe as they say? I don't know who they are, but yes, Japan was super safe. I've probably never felt so safe in a country as traveling around Japan. Like, anywhere you go in the world, always use the same common sense you would at home. But yeah, Japan, absolutely fine. How is the backpacking scene in Japan for solo travel and meeting people? We were there in January, which was off season, so most of the hostels were empty and pretty dead. So this is what a lot of the hostels have been like in Japan so far. But there was always tons of hostels to choose from in each city, so having all that infrastructure there suggests that when it's high season, there'll be tons of backpackers around and you'll be absolutely fine in terms of meeting people. We were just there the wrong time of year for it. There were some exceptions to that, and a couple of hostels like organized sociable things in the evening. We made some friends and stuff like you normally expect. So I think when you're not traveling there off season, you'll be absolutely fine. Is it better to visit with a group and a local guide or alone with your girlfriend experience? Hi from Spain. I mean, this question can be applied to any country really. Like, solo travel and group travel are very different experiences, and both have their advantages and disadvantages. Like in terms of Japan, like if you're traveling with a group and had a local tour guide, They could probably teach you a lot more about the country. You get a bigger understanding of their history and their culture. It'll be more of an educational experience. And any other people you're interacting who can't speak English, they could translate for you, so that's always an advantage. But I've always been asked to sort of put on a group tour in Japan, and one of the things that makes me hesitate about it is one of our favorite experiences was going to the izakayas where you can fit like 10 people in and we just chat to the locals. You wouldn't be able to do that on a group tour because, I mean, normally tours have like 12 to 16 people, so you couldn't even fit the whole group into one bar, and you certainly wouldn't be able to chat to locals the way that we did. So if you do go the group tour way, I'd try and find an itinerary that has a good amount of free time in it, so you can just, you know, go off by yourself or with a mate and just explore around and go to the izakayas or whatever and try and get those experiences that we did when we were there solo traveling. Yeah! Did you experience any people or businesses who were anti-tourists? We didn't see any of that at all when we were there in 2018. I think that's been more of a recent thing that's risen in Japan. Like, I've seen about it on the Chris Broad's Abroad in Japan channel, which is a fucking amazing YouTube channel, by the way. I've seen about it there, but it certainly wasn't a thing in our time. And I think that what's given a rise to this kind of stuff is people have gone there and just sort of taken the Japanese hospitality for granted and just gone around being a dick like some other YouTubers did. But yeah, that certainly wasn't a part of our experience in 2018. Pocket Wi-Fi or travel SIM? I used Pocket Wi-Fi a couple of times in the past in trips, and I just found it to be a bit unreliable and annoying. I never bothered to buy physical travel SIM cards because I was just so worried I was going to lose that tiny bit of plastic while switching them around. But I now use eSIMs. So Airalo is a really good one. There's an app, you can just buy an eSIM for the country that you're in and you're set to go. So I do have an affiliate link for them in the description, so click on that and basically as soon as you land you can be on data straight away. Is the onsen worth doing? Well, there's lots of onsens, there's not just one. But yeah, onsens are great. They come in different shapes and sizes and stuff, but like my favorite ones were the private ones you can get at some of the accommodation. You can just have it to yourself and really relax in the water, and it's just, you feel so good after you've been in them. It's not quite the same as a hot tub where you feel a bit dehydrated afterwards. Like this, you just, your whole skin just feels soft and smooth and you feel so relaxed, and yeah, I absolutely love the onsens. And that brings us on to tattoos. What is the deal with traveling Japan and being heavily tattooed? Like, James had some big tattoos when we travel around and it wasn't really a problem anywhere. I mean, some onsens won't let you in with tattoos, but some do, so you just want to sort of ask ahead or just give it a quick Google and you'll find out where you can go and where you can't.
Japanese tattoo! My name is Yakuza!
Which company was the Mario Kart with? We used a company called Car, and again, I'll put a link for them in the description of this video, and we loved it. It was so much fun. How to rent a motorbike or car there? What documents do you need? We didn't rent any motorbikes or cars whilst we were there, but for the Mario Kart you did need an international driver's permit, so I'm guessing that's going to be the same for a motorbike or car hire. So make sure you've got an international driver's permit and then your normal license, and hopefully you'll be fine. I've had some people asking what would I do with just 1 week there or 10 days there. I mean, if you look at my 2-week itinerary, I guess for 1 week you could do 3 nights in Tokyo, 1 night in Hakone so you can see Mount Fuji, and then 2 nights in Kyoto, and then 1 final night in Osaka, and then fly home from Osaka. That'd be a very rushed and quick week, but you get to see a bit of the country. How long is needed to travel the same route as we did but not feel rushed? Well, as I talked about in the itinerary video, we weren't rushed. We had lots of chill out days and stuff like that. Like, I talked about how you could take our month itinerary and compress it into 3 weeks and still do everything that we did. So our itinerary was pretty leisurely, actually. Do you think for a 2 to 3 week trip you should try and see a wide variety of places or focus on just a few and see properly? I mean, that's always the balance of wherever you go in the world, but the nice thing with Japan is that transport infrastructure is so good, and so with the bullet trains you can get around the country so fast and it's so comfortable and relaxing. Like, I always say, like, sometimes the worst part of traveling is the actual traveling. Like, you'll be, I don't know, Southeast Asia or Central America and you have to get on like a bus for 12 hours on some bumpy road and it's all cramped and horrible, and it just takes it out of you. Whilst in Japan, a travel day is like, oh cool, I'll just get to sit on this train for 2 hours and I'll be at the next stop. So maybe it's a good country to take advantage of that and actually see a lot of places in a short time. Hey mate, if you go to any other city other than Tokyo, Kyoto and Osaka, where would I go? The main one that's missing from there for me was Hiroshima. Like Hiroshima, we had such a good time at. Like I talked about in the itinerary video, how when people think of Hiroshima, they just think of one thing, the Peace Memorial Park, but it's actually a really fun city with a good vibe, and there's tons of little day trips you can do from there as well. So that'd be the one that I'd add, but obviously there's tons of other places in the country to choose from, but that's the obvious one that's missing from that list for me. Was there anything that didn't live up to the hype there? I guess there's a couple of bits in Kyoto, like the bamboo forest was just like crowded and just like, oh cool, some nice trees, but it, you know, I think when you see the pictures of it like looking all quiet, it looks like quite a zen place, but it wasn't that at all. And the same with the Golden Temple there. It was like, oh, it's quite nice as a picture, but it wasn't amazing. We enjoyed our day because we rode our bikes around Kyoto and went to see those places, so we more enjoyed it for like the journey and the activity. But the places by themselves were just kind of meh, they were fine. But having said that, some places that are worth the hype, also in Kyoto, was the Fushimi Inari Shrine, and I absolutely loved that. I thought it was incredible. Yes, it's super busy, but as I keep talking about in the other videos, you can get there and it just keeps going on and on up the hill. So the further you walk up the hill, the less crowded it gets. And before you know it, you can have the place reasonably to yourself. When is the best time of year to go with the least amount of rain? I don't know, but I do know how to use Google, so let me find out. The best time to visit Japan is spring, March and April, or autumn, October and November, when days are sunny and dry. During the summer months, May to September, the cities are hot and humid, with heavy rainfall occurring across the country in June and July, except for Hokkaido. There you go.
Takoyaki.
Takoyaki.
What is it?
Oh, octopus ball.
Octopus ball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi Karl, how's the food in Japan for someone who doesn't eat seafood? Well, James doesn't eat seafood, he can't stand the stuff, and he did just fine in Japan. He did end up eating a lot of fried chicken, and so did I as well, because it's fantastic.
Good.
Just like KFC.
There's tons of food on offer everywhere that's not just seafood, so you'll be fine. And the final question is, when am I going back to Japan for round 2? No idea. I'd love to go back, and I definitely will one day. Jamie really wants to travel there. James would love to go back, so I'm sure we'll get back there hopefully in the next few years. And I talked about in the itinerary video, like if I was to go back there, what the itinerary might look like and sort of the places I might check out. So if you haven't seen that already, check out the itinerary video and check out the budget video so you can plan your first trip there as well. So that's it. Thank you so much for everyone for sending in your questions about traveling in Japan. If you haven't watched the Journey in Japan 2-part series yet from 2018, then go check it out. If you've seen it already, then go give it a rewatch. But I'm about to head off to somewhere new in Asia that I haven't been to before, which is Taiwan, which is why I'm filming this in a hotel room. So tomorrow I'll be filming a brand new adventure, and I'm super excited for you guys to see that. So make sure you've subscribed, and I'll see you again soon.